It was Friday night in the big city, and on a Friday night you'll find me making my rounds at the Lakeview Hotel, a two-bed armpit up the upside of downtown. Anytime before midnight, that is. After midnight, you'll catch me drowning my proverbial sorrows at the five-star dive bar in the lobby of that hotel. But at 10 minutes to midnight, I'm always here in my office, watching the clock. And that's why at 10 minutes to midnight, I had my proverbial eyes glued to the literal clock. Because when that strikes 12, my Friday night nightmare becomes somebody else's Saturday morning problem. So if my luck holds true, Lady Luck, you could set your watch by her.
I need your help.
I'm afraid I'm not the man you were looking for.
You're not Dick Piston?
No, I'm just not helpful.
But you are the hotel detective.
For 9 more minutes I am, but there's not going to be a 10. So if it's anything more time consuming than a stuck pickle jar, I'm going to have to refer you to the day shift.
But I need your help. I'm the victim of a crime.
Well, unless that crime is a necessary witness, I'm afraid there's not much I can do in the time allotted.
It's not a necessary witness.
Are you sure? Because I've got a blow dryer in the desk.
Mr. Piston, please. You can't just turn your back on me.
Not in that outfit, no.
Then you'll help me?
For 8 more minutes I will. But that's all the time we've got.
Will that be enough?
Depends on the crime. What's yours?
I think they call it murder.
And you say you're the victim?
Yes, it happened just now, up in my hotel room.
You know what murder is, right?
It's the one where somebody kills someone, right?
That's the one.
Yay!
Oh boy. Listen, I'm gonna take your case, but I'm also gonna set my watch. When this goes off, case dismissed, no matter what. Is that understood?
Mr. Piston, you don't know how grateful I am for this.
Coming here in a towel is thanks enough.
You're welcome.
Now, if you'll take a seat, I have to make a phone call.
But aren't you going to race up to my room and examine the scene of the crime?
Ordinarily I would, but we don't have that kind of time. Hello. Front desk. It's me, Dick Piston, hotel detective. Put me through to the kitchen.
What are you doing?
Ordering room service.
Will that speed up the investigation?
Not at all.
Then why are you doing it?
Because no man in his right mind would ever be alone in a room with a woman in a towel without at least a bottle of champagne and a half order of oysters on the way. Hello? Give me the honeymoon special. Send it to my office. Pronto.
And how did you know this was our honeymoon?
Just tell me about your case and get it over with.
Well, I was up in my room, taking a shower before dinner.
So you haven't eaten?
No, not yet. But those oysters sound delicious.
So you were shot in the shower, huh?
What makes you think I was shot?
Because if you were stabbed, you would have been in the same room with you.
My God, you think he was in the shower with me?
No, I think you were shot.
But I wasn't shot. Look.
Or stabbed for that matter. But it looks like you've had a close shave of some kind.
No, that's waxing.
Well, given that you haven't been harmed in any way,
Have you ever been waxed?
what makes you think you were murdered?
Oh, I wasn't murdered.
But you said you were.
I said I was the victim of a murder.
Then how are you here?
Well, I had to report it, didn't I? He was my husband after all.
The killer?
No, the killery.
The murder victim is your husband?
Yes, he was shot in my room, in the head, on the bed.
So you're the victim by marriage.
And this was supposed to be our honeymoon.
I see. And this is how you were dressed when you discovered the body?
Yes, I had just stepped into the shower, where I was nude. Mr. Piston, can you imagine? When I heard what sounded like a gunshot and a blood-curdling scream. Naturally, I finished my shower, put on some makeup, and raced into the bedroom right away to see what was the matter. That's when I found him, dead on the bed with a slug in his head.
I see. And were there any signs of forced entry?
Well, he'd been dropping hints all weekend, so I was hoping.
No, to the room!
Oh, no. Everything seemed perfectly normal.
Room service.
Well, miss, normally this is the important investigation where I would rush up to your room to examine the body. But we don't have that kind of time. So let's just cut to the proverbial chase. There's your killer.
Oh my, but how could you possibly know that?
Was your husband clinically insane?
No, not clinically.
That's how I know.
I don't understand.
And there's no time to explain. Wait, there's 4 minutes. Allow me to explain. If there were no signs of forced entry, then your husband must have let the killer into the room himself, which means your husband knew the killer personally or expected him shortly. A bellhop, for example.
But why would he be expecting a bellhop?
Because your husband was not clinically insane. And since no man in his right mind would ever be alone in a room with a woman and a towel without at least a bottle of champagne and a half order of oysters on the way, and your husband knew that you were about to enter the room, we know that your husband must have ordered something from room service.
But there wasn't any food.
Exactly. And since there were no edibles in evidence, it can only mean that whoever brought the food removed it immediately after bringing it to conceal the fact that the killer came from the kitchen.
I don't know why I didn't see it before.
Which means your husband must have been murdered by the night shift bellhop who gained access to the room under the pretense of delivering a romantic appetizer. And after murdering your husband in cold blood, he removed the telltale oysters and champagne from the room, something that only a member of the hotel staff would do, leaving in their place the even more telltale absence of oysters and champagne, which confirms his guilt.
But why would this bellhop want to kill my husband?
Because unbeknownst to your late husband, this bellhop was having an extramarital affair with his wife.
What? But how could you possibly know that?
Because you still haven't asked me the one question that any widow in her right mind would want to know the answer to in this situation. Why would the bellhop want to kill your husband?
But I did ask.
You did? When?
You really haven't been paying attention to anything I've said, have you, Mr. Piston?
For God's sakes, you're wearing a towel!
That's no reason to accuse me of being an adulteress. Or worse yet, an accomplice to murder.
You're right. I'm sorry. I apologize.
Accepted. Shame about the bellboy, though.
Yes. Do you think we could agree it was just self-inflicted?
Of course, Mr. Piston. He looked suicidal the moment he walked in here.
Aha! But what widow in her right mind would ever agree to cover up the murder of a man who had nothing to do with her husband, unless he in fact had everything to do with the murder, and she was in on it?
But that could only mean two things.
No, one. It could only mean one thing.
I think you're forgetting one possibility, Mr. Piston.
What's that?
That the widow, in fact, is not in her right mind. Ooh, ooh, ee, ooh.
Well, this is a little embarrassing. For both of us. But it looks like I was wrong again. My shift is almost over. So you're free to go.
Oh, thank you, Mr. Piston. You don't know what a relief this is. You may not have solved my husband's murder, but knowing that I'm innocent of all charges is a huge load off my mind. What little there is left of it anyway. Oh. How can I ever thank you?
Well, we've got champagne and oysters, and I'm off in 2 minutes.
Oh, Mr. Piston, I think we can get you off before that.